All right, let's talk about something that I know has happened to you. You are deep in the zone. I mean, you're having one of those super productive sessions with your AI. You've laid out all the rules. The workflow is just perfect. You're on the cusp of a huge breakthrough. And then, poof, it forgets everything. What is going on there?
Oh man, it is one of the most frustrating moments, right? You give it the next logical command, and the AI's response is just weird. The tone is all wrong, it ignores a key rule you set up an hour ago, and it's like it has total amnesia about the entire point of your conversation.
Well, guess what? That experience actually has a name. It's called prompt drift. And just understanding this one term is the key to fixing it forever. Seriously, this isn't some random glitch. It's a predictable failure of the AI's memory. So today, we're going to show you exactly why it happens, and more importantly, how to stop it cold. Okay, let's get under the hood here and really look at the mechanics of why your AI seems to get amnesia right in the middle of a task. So first things first, the AI isn't being lazy. It's not being rebellious. This isn't a bug that some developer needs to go fix. Prompt drift is a fundamental part of how the AI's memory is designed to work. And once you get that, you can learn how to manage it. And to understand this technical limit, we don't need to look at a bunch of code. All we need is a simple, real-world analogy. Let's call it the distracted meeting problem. See, the root cause of all this is something called the context window. The easiest way to think about it is as the AI's short-term memory, kind of like its RAM. But the most crucial thing to understand here is that this memory is finite. It's like a bucket with a limited capacity, and it absolutely will overflow. So here's the analogy. Imagine you're running a 2-hour strategy meeting. At the very beginning, you light the main goal on a whiteboard. Solve our logistics problem, but without increasing the budget. For the first hour, everybody's on track. But then, you know how meetings go. The conversation wanders to marketing, then to sales, then to the new coffee machine. By the end, when you ask for a final solution, someone suggests this really expensive new software. It's a smart idea, but it totally ignores the original rule on the whiteboard. The team just forgot. This is exactly what happens inside the AI's context window. Your original most important instructions, they're at the very top, at the beginning of the conversation. But as you keep talking, adding new prompts, getting new responses, that initial instruction gets pushed further and further and further back. And eventually, to make room for what you just said, the AI literally shoves those original rules right out of its working memory. So this is the key insight right here. The AI isn't ignoring you. It literally cannot see your rules anymore. The whiteboard from the start of the meeting has been erased. This changes everything, doesn't it? Because you're no longer dealing with a disobedient partner. You're dealing with a system that has a predictable memory failure. And that means you can fix it. So, how do we fix it? Well, you'll be happy to know the solution is incredibly simple, but also incredibly powerful. It's what we call the one-step memory refresh. You can forget starting a whole new chat and losing all that valuable progress. You don't even have to copy and paste your original prompt. All you need to do is act like that meeting facilitator who stands up, points back to the whiteboard, and says, "Hey everyone, let's reread the original agenda." Now, as you can see, there are two main ways to issue this refresh command, and it really just depends on how you started your conversation. If you kicked things off with a big, detailed prompt right in the chat window, you're going to use a direct command, like the one on the left. You forcefully tell it to stop and reread the very first prompt. But if you're using an attached document, like a system prompt notebook, you tell it to audit its instructions by rereading that specific file. See? Both methods get you to the exact same goal. What you're doing essentially is forcing the AI to just pause its distracted train of thought and reload its core mission. Like the slide says, you are manually hitting the refresh button on its brain. You're instantly restoring its focus. It's that simple. And this technique, it does so much more than just fix a problem. It really represents a fundamental shift in how you should think about working with any AI. This brings us to what's known as the expert driver mindset. With this, you stop being just a passive participant in the conversation, just asking questions and hoping for the best. Instead, you become the active facilitator. You're the driver who is managing the AI's attention, you're aware of its limitations, and you are keeping it focused on the final destination. This mindset is really built on the principles we've just covered. First, there's system awareness. That's knowing the limits of the context window. Second is structured design, treating the chat like a system that might just need a little reset now and then. And finally, there's ethical responsibility, Just accepting that you can't put the AI on autopilot. You are always responsible for monitoring its performance. This is a manual process, and that's the key takeaway here. The most important tool for preventing prompt drift isn't some fancy piece of software. It's your own vigilance. Your ability to spot that subtle shift in tone or notice a forgotten role, that's what allows you to step in and keep the quality of the output incredibly high. So there you have it. You now have the tool to give your AI a perfect memory and solve one of its most common and most frustrating failures. You can keep it focused, but this all leads to a much bigger question. Now that you can fix its memory, can you actually build its logic for even more complex tasks? Well, that sounds like a topic for our next explainer.